Welcome to CMS Training with EDUCO. In this video, we'll be showing you how to create and manage the content of your Drupal site. I'm currently logged in to our administrative backend, and because I'm logged in, I see a View and Edit tab on this home page. For front-end users who aren't logged into your website, they will not see these links. So if you're logged in and you're seeing the tabs, don't worry that if it doesn't necessarily affect the display of your website to non-logged in users. The default view is how the content of the page will appear, and then you also have an edit tab. This will open up an overlay that will allow us to edit the content of this page. Whether you're editing an existing page or creating a new page, the fields are exactly the same. So we're going to show you these fields using a page that's already been created, and then we'll just show you the steps that you would take to create a new page or article. So your first field, and it's got a red asterisk, which means it's required, is the title of the page. In this instance, the title of the page is Home. This is what appears on the page in the big block letters in your header tag, and it also appears at the top of your browser bar when someone is viewing the page in their browser. So you can have however long of a title you want here. Usually it's recommended that you keep it under 70 characters for SEO purposes, and you also want to be careful of special characters such as trademark symbols or any other kind of special character symbols, because they can affect the display of the site. So you would have your title filled out here. Next we have our body text field. And what you see here, it's called what you see is what you get editor, or a WYSIWYG. This is what allows you to basically edit your website as if it were a Microsoft Word document or an email. Now, the actual layout of the WYSIWYG might differ on your actual website. It differs from site to site. There are different WYSIWYG editors that could be installed. This particular installation uses the CK editor. There's also TinyMCE, FCK editor, just a variety, and you can also have a different set of buttons within those particular WYSIWYG installations. But for the most part, the general functionality is the same, and so we'll be going over these individual buttons and creating links, inserting images, specifically in a video that solely deals with your WYSIWYG editor. So as you scroll down, you can see here, underneath that text block, there's a disable rich text that would toggle off the WYSIWYG and only show the HTML, which you probably don't want to do. And then you'll see below that a text format. If for some reason your buttons aren't displaying at the top and maybe your text doesn't look properly formatted, you might be seeing your page in filtered HTML. That looks like this. And you can see the buttons just went away. Just make sure that you've got it set to full HTML, or it might have a slightly different name, but you might just want to play around with those settings to make sure that your WYSIWYG is showing up. You can also see at the top, some body fields also have summaries that could potentially be utilized in your layout. This particular page, the summary does not matter, but if I click Edit Summary, you can see I've got a little block here, and now I can create some summary text for this particular bit of content. Usually if there's a summary required, if you fail to fill out the summary, you'll just get a trimmed amount of text based on a predetermined number of characters. Say, for instance, you want it to cut off at 300 characters or 150, things like that. So if there is a summary that's needed and it doesn't get filled out, it's not the worst thing in the world. So as you scroll down underneath the body text, we see a few tabs that are relative to the display of the page, some information about the page, various items. It's possible that you might not have all of these tabs in your particular basic page content type, or in the particular kind of content that you're adding. Some of these tabs are generated by modules, specifically the Sub and Sibling Content tab, the Meta Tags tab. Those are, and the URL path settings, things like that. They're generated and modified by certain settings within your website. So it's possible that your particular layout might not look exactly like this, but in the event that you see these tabs, this is how you would handle them. So the first tab that we have is the Menu Settings tab. This determines whether or not this particular page appears in your menu. Now, since this was the home page, we had it set as your default front page, so this is a special case insofar as it appears in the menu but didn't need to have this link clicked. But say, for instance, you're creating an additional page, and you wanted to provide a menu link, once you tick that box, then you get a couple more options. So you have your menu link title. This allows you to select a different title for the link than the title of the page if you need to have a shorter version of that particular link. Say, for instance, the title of your page is Welcome to My Site and your menu link title is Home. Underneath that, you've got a description for that link. This is only shown when a person is mousing over the link as an additional information as to what they're clicking on. So you might want to say, return home or something like that. In some cases, people choose not to fill out the description because it might interrupt, say for instance, they have drop downs. It might interrupt the text of the drop down, but descriptions for text are very good for search engine optimization as they let search engines know what that link is linking to. It gives it just a little bit more information about the link and gives you an opportunity to insert keywords, but don't go crazy with the keywords. Below that, then we've got our parent item. Now, the way that this works is that if you have a multi-level navigation, say for instance, you have pages with drop-downs, you might need to set sub-pages to those drop-downs. So if this particular page that I was linking, while it is the home page, if I wanted this link to be a sub-page of the home page that's already been created, I would set the parent of this page as home. If I were creating a mission page and it was going to be a sub-page of About Us, then the parent item would be About Us. And, you will need to have already created that parent item and have it in the link, or so that you could have it linked from this particular screen. But since it's not a subpage of any other item, I'm going to leave the parent item as main menu. You might have a different name for the menu that appears on your website as the main navigation. You might also have additional footer menus, various different options for the way that your menu is handled. It's important to remember that you have the ability to place pages in your menu outside of this particular view, and we're going to go over that in a subsequent video. Under structure menus, you can more finely tune or manage the menu items on a more granular level from the structure menus page. This is basically just to get the link in the menu, and if you have a very simple menu structure, it can be properly done in the right order. Again, below that you've got this weight option. Now this you would use this to try to change the position that this particular link appears in your navigation relative to other links that are already in there. It's a little bit tricky when trying to figure out the exact weight. It gives you a little bit of a description here. It tells you that menu links with smaller weights are displayed before links with larger weights. So if you had a link that was already in your navigation and had a weight 0 and you wanted this link to appear before it, you would give this one a weight of -1. If you wanted it to appear after the menu item with a weight of 0, you would give it a weight of 1. Like I said before, it's a little bit tricky to manage the order of the menu from this page using the weights, because in order to do so, you have to remember the weights of the items that are already in the menu. So we advise using the menu structure page to do a little bit more specific rearranging. Next tab is the Sub and Sibling Content tab. This is a module specifically installed to this site, so it's possible that you don't have it installed. But if you do, on certain pages you might need to display a menu within the content that shows the sibling pages or the sub-content of a particular page. In order to make that a little bit easier, we have the Sub and Sibling Content module. So say for instance, this page were About Us and it had the children, mission, leadership, and contact. If those were sub-pages of this particular About Us page and I hit Display Sub-Content, and I would just give this menu a title of About Us, and I'd give it the display type of block and menu, and that's usually set as the default. And then if I save this particular page, I'd get a little menu on the side of my content that displays all of the sub pages of this particular item. If I wanted a menu to display all the sibling pages, that means all the sibling content, that means all the pages on the exact same level of this page. So the home page would be a sibling to About Us. That first level of navigation, anything in that same level would be siblings. We would just follow kind of the exact same protocol, give our menu a title, and then make sure that the display type is set as menu block or whatever the default is. and that's how we could address that information. I'm just going to uncheck that. Revision information. This basically allows you to, as you're making changes to a page that already exists, if you want to save an instance of a particular revision just in case you need to come back to it, you just click Create New Revision, and you can give a log message to let you know what's going on with this particular change, why a revision was made, what all's going on there. And then you can kind of work your way back through iterations of a particular page if you need to have the ability to kind of backtrack a little bit. Under URL path settings, usually your installation will have it set to generate automatic URL alias. And what the URL alias is it is the word that represents this particular instance of this page for your website. So this particular page could be accessed by going to mywebsite.com/home. If I were to change that to, if I were to uncheck generate automatic URL alias, I would be able to change the content of this block. So right now, when the generate automatic URL alias is checked, it's going to generate that URL alias based on the title of the page. So if I had generate automatic URL alias checked, and I change the title of this page to welcome to my site, then once I save this page, the new URL alias would be welcome-to-my-site. And I could access this page by going to mysite.com/welcome to my site. Basically, it's just a prettier version of the actual URLs of these these bits of content. Usually a piece of content in Drupal is called a node, and so content is accessed by its node ID number. So this particular page could also be accessed at mysite.com/node/1. The alias basically just gives it a better name that's more memorable, more easily associated with that particular bit of content. So if you leave generate automatic URL alias checked, you have to be aware that any changes that you make to the title will affect the URL alias. If you uncheck it and want to create the alias yourself, you need to make sure that you don't use any spaces in your URL alias title. It's better to keep them all lowercase, and you want to, instead of spaces, you would want to use a dash or an underscore. So if I were to write a custom alias for this site, I would do so using dashes and lowercase letters. But I'm going to turn the generate automatic URL alias back on. And you use these aliases throughout your website when you're creating links to various pages in your site. So it's very important that if you're going to change them, you keep in mind the fact that there are other pages that could be linking to this particular page based on its alias, so you'll need to go update those links as well. Underneath that, we have comment settings. Now, for the most part, comments tend to be closed on a basic page type, but you might have articles on your site that you want to allow users to comment on, so you could open it up on a page-by-page basis. If you set your comment status to, or comment settings to open, then anyone who has a permission to post comments could do so on this particular bit of content. Closed means that no one can post comments. Meta tags. The meta tag tab allows you to add custom tags to your this particular page for search engine optimization purposes. Some of this content is set by default using replacement tokens from the actual page. So the page title meta tag gets set by whatever the title of this node is, and then it has a vertical bar and then the site name. So this particular page would be called Home vertical bar Drupal site. You can delete that replacement pattern and add a custom page title. The same thing with the description. It'll automatically use the node summary or 150 characters or less of this particular page. You can put an exact description for search engines, and the abstract tends to be the exact. It's just a repeat of the description. And you can also add a comma-separated list of keywords for this particular page, as the description of this particular field says right below it. The meta tag, or this particular keyword meta tag, is not used by most search engines because of abuse, but you could always, just add your comma-separated list of keywords. So, I say Drupal, training, etc. you could basically add whatever is relevant to the particular page. Drupal training. I can't spell. Yeah, so you could just add that in your keywords. And then the next thing below is authoring information. This will let you know if this page has already been created. You can see who created the page and the date that it was created on. You can also edit the authored on date if you've got maybe an article that you wanted to have posted as being created on a different date than it actually was. You can edit that here and change the date that it was authored. And finally, you have your publishing options. If you wanted to create a page that wasn't viewable on the front end of your website, that was just in, say, for instance, draft mode, you would uncheck publish. That means you could come back and edit it later, but a person visiting your website wouldn't necessarily see this page. If you have a site that actually references the promoted to front page, if particular articles or pages would actually get set to the front page based on what's checked here, you could check that box and promote it to a block on the front page. If this particular content type appears in any sort of list, you could make this instance of content sticky at the top of any of those lists. That would override any sort of date-based viewing or title sort of ordering to put this item of content at the top of the list if possible. So those are all of the settings for your page. If you're done editing your page, you can either save, preview, or delete. If you preview, the site is going to let you know that they're going to show you a trimmed version of the page. So any time that this particular page would have a summary of it appear somewhere, this is what that would look like. And then below that, you get a preview of the full version. The content isn't always organized exactly like it would look, and it's highlighted in yellow, so that's not how it's going to look at the end. But you can see a little bit of how that content would be displayed. If you're fine with the preview, then you would just hit save. And then any changes that you've made to your site would appear, and that it would let you know that it's been updated. And you can see here that now I've duplicated my home link in the menu, and that return home that appears when I mouse over it is what I put in the description of that link. So that's the basics of viewing and editing a basic page. We'll go into a little bit more depth about how to actually edit the content using your WYSIWYG editor in the next video. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.